Welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, how leaders think, grow, and show up. And I'm Karen Colligan, founder of People Think. And for more than 2 decades, I've worked with leaders across industries, helping them grow into the leader their next level requires. And here's what I know for sure. Every single leader is unique. Leadership is shaped by your experiences, by your values, and by your strengths. That's why on this podcast, I ask every guest the same 7 questions, because the answers reveal how real leaders think, grow, and show up. So listen closely, take what resonates, use it to shape your own leadership path. And so now it's time for the Talk 7. Same 7 questions, different leaders, different insights every time. So let's talk leadership with our next guest. In this episode, I am so excited to be speaking to Bill Carbone, the Executive Director of TeachRock. And we're going to hear all about Bill's approach to leadership. And so a really important side note for the listeners. I'm a huge music enthusiast, so I cannot wait for this conversation. So no pressure at all. No pressure, Bill, at all. So anyway, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
It is my pleasure to be here, Karen.
Good. So Bill, before we get into the 7 questions, tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us a little bit about what TeachRock is all about.
Sure. I'm going to start with TeachRock because it frames who I am very well, too. TeachRock is a nonprofit organization founded by the great rock and roll Hall of Famer and actor Stevie Van Zandt. Stevie wanted to find a way to keep the arts in the DNA of education. He was seeing them disappear, and indeed they are still disappearing. And right at this moment, there's a budget out there in the United States that could even further take them away if it gets approved. He wanted to come up with a new pedagogy and methodology that could engage really students of the smartphone generation and beyond. So when he started it, he was thinking about smartphones, and now we're talking about AI, but it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. How do you get kids to feel like they need to do school when they have these devices that do these things for them? And then finally, by doing those 2 things, how could he positively impact the graduation rates in the United States, right? So how could he help teachers? Everybody thinks about their education and can remember 1 or 2 teachers that did something really special, right?
Yes.
Often with music, it comes up all the time. Oh man, this one English teacher would let us make these mixtapes to go along with this book. And like those, every teacher can be that teacher.
Yes.
Not everyone knows how to be that teacher yet, right? So that's really the goal. Let's unlock that in everybody. So I come to it from a life of all the little bits and pieces that add up to be what we do, right? So first I was a full-time musician. So, I went to music school and played in bands, and then ended up teaching drums. But I was always passionate about culture too. I kind of traced that back to reading Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead's Drumming at the Edge of Magic book in high school, which introduced me to the idea of ethnomusicology. I ended up going to graduate school for ethnomusicology and doing a lot of research in Jamaica about Afro-Caribbean religious percussion music and American popular music at the dawn of reggae. And then later about the Hammond organ jazz scene in New York City and especially uptown Harlem and the Bronx. And I was teaching at a few colleges, and the opportunity arose to join this interesting organization that needed someone to create curriculum that used music to teach social studies, and particularly American music to teach U.S. history. And I actually didn't know who the person was behind the organization when I first heard about it, but I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to know more about that. So I was hired by the executive director at the time was Warren Zanes, whose name you certainly No, from the Nebraska book. And
Yeah.
he's a brilliant scholar, and he was a really lovely mentor. He loved my writing. He rode me hard, but I learned so much. And he didn't stay much longer than the first year that I was here. This month is my 10th anniversary, actually. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Over those 10 years, the first five, I worked in creating curriculum and developing professional learning opportunities. And then I'm about 5 years in as the executive director. I became executive director a couple months before COVID became the
Oh,
preoccupation in the United States.
yay.
So talk about a leadership journey.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So what's interesting about everything that you're saying so far is, when I talk about leadership, I really talk about how important it is to understand who you are as a leader, and as important to really want to do more, be more, prepare other people for their roles. And as I listen to you and I think about your trajectory of how you ended up being executive director, it's all because you loved what you do. It was in your DNA, it was in your spirit. It was like, it's almost like you couldn't do anything else because that's who you are. I mean, that's what leadership is all about as far as I'm concerned.
So there's a person who summed it up so well. It was a singer whose band that I used to play in. And when I told him what I was kind of leaving that scene we were in to do, he said, "Thank God you found something to do with all that expletive that's in your head."
Yeah, and make it useful for the greater population.
Yes, exactly. And I do actually, I feel so good about that last part because,
Yeah,
I have a degree in ethnomusicology, which I think is really cool, but
yeah,
I struggled a little with what it means to do that in a
yeah,
university setting, right? So
yeah,
really what we do at TeachRock is applied ethnomusicology that makes it a incredibly powerful tool to improve the lives of young people.
yeah.
And I never knew that was there to do, but I'm
Well, it
so
hasn't been before Stevie, so you're right.
yes. So I'm certainly glad I got on that train. And I'm
Yeah.
really proud to say I've hired a few ethnomusicologists onto our
Nice.
staff. So we have a great team of people that think that way and are, taking the same action.
Yeah. Oh, love, love, love. Yes. Okay. So we could just go on and on and on. However, we have 7 questions we need to get to, Mr. Bill here. So the first question is, it's a big one, and it's
Mm.
about leadership and how do you define it? Because we're all define it so differently, and it has to be so purposeful to who we are. So do tell, how do you define leadership?
Well, I have to admit, you sent me the questions and I
Of course.
stared at that one for a while because I don't think I've ever tried to define it before.
Oh,
And it was a blank page moment. And then
we
it was
love
another blank page
that.
moment and a few more. But upon thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that to some extent, leadership to me is about creating the conditions for other people to do their best work and then
Mm,
trusting them to do it.
mm,
And that's definitely how I lead. I'm not a micromanager, not particularly forceful. So I was thinking about, where do I see this type of leadership that inspires me? And being the music guy I am, uh, I kept landing on Miles Davis.
oh,
So if you know anything about Miles's career, he stayed relevant for his entire life. And one of the ways that he did that was he constantly surrounded himself with really brilliant,
mm,
inspiring people, often young. He would keep getting younger people or keep bringing new people in. He would bring them together and then famously tell them so little and give
wow.
them this minimal guidance, like just set up guardrails and have them figure it out. And so and then there's an album, Bitches Brew, which is considered one of the like a pinnacle in jazz rock. It's kind of the beginning of jazz rock. And really what he does is he brings these people together, this huge group of brilliant people into a studio for several days, and he almost tells them nothing. And he just pulls this greatness out of them by recognizing how great they are, and getting them together, getting them kind of pointed in the same direction, but giving them each room to be their great selves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're talking, what I'm thinking about is he's allowing people to bring their genius and open up that genius, because people sometimes get, we're forced down. We're not allowed to express our brilliance, our genius. And so it's hilarious that he would give them very little information and say, kind of figure it out. And when I talk about leadership, I often say, leaders have to hire people who are smarter than them, who know more than them, so that they can stretch themselves to be more than, and allow those people to be more than. So this whole concept of Miles giving them very little information, however, knowing that they're brilliant is brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
Worked. And I often use the analogy of a band for TeachRock
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I mean it is who we are.
Yes, of
Everybody at
course.
TeachRock, or most people, come from some element of music. And of course, our
Yeah.
founder, you may have heard of his band. And we're small. We're 10 people, right?
Yeah.
So we're about the size of Miles Davis's band at in that moment. So I love that as an analogy. And I recognize that if you're working with 1,000 people, the structure has to change a little. But in spirit, I think there's space for that type of leadership.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely
Yeah.
love that. So the second question is really about values. And if you think about music, I mean, you're surrounded by music, obviously, but music really reflects what's going on in the world. It reflects the genre of the music. It reflects the values of the musician. I mean, there's no question, and you and I could list many people, Stevie for one, Bruce with his Lands in Hope and Dream tour that's on right now. And so, values are really our guiding light. They're what lets us make those really tough decisions based on what we believe is right. So,
Mhm.
so Bill, for you, what are your top three values?
So I landed on curiosity,
Ah,
humility,
mm.
and empathy.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of come from one place, which is mindfulness, essentially,
Mhm.
this respect big picture for the human condition. So I am a leader and I love being a leader, but I also struggle sometimes with being labeled necessarily as one, or like I fight against the word that I'm an authority on something,
Yeah.
because I do feel like there's lifelong learning that's such an important part of things. And I also think a lot about perspective and how fundamentally the same we all are. Like I think a lot um, that I'm not that different from a person that I might see on the street who's homeless, or I have these circumstances in my life that have helped me become who I am, but I could have just as easily gone any other way or been born someplace else or in some other way. So I think the perspective is such a big deal. And
Mm.
those values kind of keep me honest in a certain way.
Ah,
And I
yeah.
love to think about what does it feel like to experience something that I'm doing to somebody else? Or what might somebody else's perspective be? Like I am so in touch with my perspective, and I'm so in touch with what comes to me in media based on what I'm fed and so on and so forth. But what might somebody else think, right?
Yeah.
I have some great opportunities in my life to engage in different perspectives because at TeachRock, there's the work I do as a leader, there's the fundraising, there's getting to be with Stevie. There's also spending a lot of time in schools,
Mhm.
spending a lot of time in schools in very different places, whether it's a
Yeah.
school in New York City or a school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Those are places that are really different and also really the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then as a musician, I still am out in small town bars sometimes, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love those opportunities to really try to understand how different people feel about things. And that's so important, like to bring it back to kind of the leadership element, to make a decision about what Teach Rock wants to do in a school. I want to be able to really feel what it might feel like
Mm.
for a teacher or a student,
Yeah.
right? And I think one of my critiques of education writ large is that there's not that much of that. Like so much of it is it's an industrial complex that there's lobbyists and there's massive sales and ed tech pipelines. And if you go to some of these conferences, you can go a long time without somebody ever mentioning a teacher, like the
Yeah.
ones where they're selling these things.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that makes us really special is that we are in touch with all that. And you'll hear teachers say that a lot. And when we do professional learning, that's the kind of feedback we get. This feels authentic to me.
Yeah.
I'm so used to coming to these things and having somebody stand up there and like kind of push an idea on me. And I think, okay, that's nice. How is this going to work in my situation?
Right.
But being able to kind of feel it on all levels makes a big difference.
Yeah. And Bill, what you're talking about also is that human connection and the importance of
Yeah.
understanding what other people talk about. I mean, you talked about curiosity, humility, and empathy. And all three of those are about let me have some human connection and let me have some conversation because you and I are very similar and we're very different. As you just said, it could be anyone that you come across, New York City schools, Chattanooga, Tennessee schools. We're all humans and we need that human connection. And when we don't have that human connection, that's when I think we become hardened and we become less open to be able to understand other ways of doing anything. And so, that whole idea that it's okay and to be curious, but more importantly, to be different. And
Mm.
everybody has a space to live in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the curiosity piece, I had an incredible opportunity last week. I was in Vermont for 2 days. The first day I was at the State House, kind of
Wow.
pitching, doing the
Yeah.
doing one side of the executive director thing. But the next day I actually visited some classrooms and I
Oh,
visited the Integrated Arts Academy, which is a magnet school in Burlington, Vermont. And they have they're trying a whole new model where their arts is in everything. The music teacher co-teaches with the math and English teachers, and
wow.
ostensibly went in to talk to them, but immediately recognized that they were just so freaking awesome that I ultimately said switched gears and just decided just to ask questions and
Yeah,
just like
listen.
take me on a tour, show me what you're
Yeah,
doing. You guys are brilliant. This is
yeah,
incredible,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think that's so important. And I felt so recharged after that experience
Yeah,
too, much more than if I had been kind of like selling something or,
yes,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, to be talked to and be able to listen and ask questions and you just said you're a continuous learner. I mean, that's just one example of what you have to do because that, Bill, is what you can bring back to Teach Rock. I mean, you learn there, you teach them, they teach you. I mean, it's what goes around, that's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, love that. Great. Okay, so the third question is best advice you were ever given by a leader.
This one was given by a band leader.
Oh,
Of
nice.
course, I come back to that, but I had the privilege of playing for 5 years with Melvin Sparks. Melvin Sparks was a soul jazz guitarist. He's on probably 150 albums or so, like lots
Wow.
of Blue Note albums, kind of jazz funk. Think George Benson, essentially.
Okay.
And I played in Melvin's band for the last 5 years of his life.
Wow.
Got very close with him. He's a wonderful person. And he took my friend, who was our organist, we were a trio, drums, organ, and guitar, into the recording studio. And we did a take of one of his songs. And when the song ended, the organist and I said, Melvin, we want to do another take. We want to do another take. And he said, why you guys want to do another take? That was fine. I said, no, no, no. We think we can do it better. There's like, we could put a little more in it. And he said, now hang on a minute, fellas. Hold on. We ain't making this album for a whole bunch of musicians to listen to because they're not going to buy it. And even if they do get it, they're just going to talk a bunch of bad on it anyway. Which I think about it all the time
Wow.
because we were directing ourselves at trying to impress other people just like us. And what
Yes.
he was saying was, that's not who you're making this for. This is
Yeah.
not about
Yeah.
your drum fill or your whatever. This is about the big picture.
Yeah.
So it's like this micro lesson that you can look at the big picture, like get your head out of the weeds,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And my favorite part is he then spent a half hour constructing his guitar solo a few a few measures at a time. So he didn't follow his
Well,
own
that's
advice.
different. That's different. That's way different. That's way different. Now, let me ask you, did he let you guys record?
No,
No.
he used our take. No, no, no. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But we still
hilarious.
talk about that all the time, and I
Yeah.
love it. I bring it
Yeah.
up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's obviously a very good lesson. Maybe he should have paid attention, right?
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
think we can all pay attention, right, to
Yes.
the idea that I think obviously my brain works in music, but when I think about social media and Instagram and TikTok, it gives you what you already like, and then it gives you more of what you already like, right?
Yeah.
So it narrows your vision
Yeah.
to thinking that you're part of this huge world when really you're part of this tiny niche, you
Mhm.
know? I see it in music a lot with we've lost so many ways to be together and to
Mhm.
be in big
Yeah.
groups. And there's a lot of, I'm a drummer. I see a lot of drummers who have a big setup and cameras and mics, and they make videos for other drummers, and
Yeah.
that's what they do. And I
Yeah.
and I think I hope it makes them happy, but really, what's the reward? Like, what's the big picture there? And
Yeah.
so I think that's a lesson we can think about in the big picture is, are we seeing what are we actually seeing all the time? Like, where are we seeing it from, and who are we trying to do it for?
Right. And when we do things, and as you talked about Instagram and so on, is what happens is it makes us believe that we're right
Hmm.
instead of being able to have the debate with someone who doesn't think like we do, to open our minds to look and see things differently. No question
Yeah,
about that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's why, I mean, human contact is
Yes.
everything.
Oh,
You
yes.
know, I love getting to visit schools in different places
I
and
bet.
see. I mean, we've done great work of we're working in a lot of different environments. Education is a battleground for sure.
Yeah.
It's an ideological battleground. Music is a beautiful way
Yeah.
to get people to relax their shoulders and let things in. And we're doing really well in very different environments. And I love what I see is that it's the same thing everywhere you go. You see a principal that is working twice as hard as anyone else you've ever seen. And then you see teachers that are also working that hard, all for the kids.
Yeah.
And most of the noise is only noise, and it's noise that practitioners are not actually involved in because they're too busy. They don't
Yes.
have time. They're not ideological. They're like, my ideology is Johnny needs to be able to read when he gets out of
Exactly.
here,
Yes.
and Sally needs to be able to get a good job and have a meaningful life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see that no matter where you go, that's
Yeah.
basically what the goal is.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about people who become teachers, they become teachers for the calling and to make sure that they're allowing people to read, get good jobs, so on and so forth. I mean, it is a calling. My niece's daughter just got her master's in education, and she's a teacher for second and third grade, and she glows. It's so exciting, and I so hope that she can continue to glow in 15 years, doesn't get beaten down from everything around it. So,
We ask a lot of teachers. It's a lot more than instruction. I mean, they're
yeah,
social workers at this point too.
yes, they are.
So that, I mean, that's one of Stevie's passions is how do we support teachers? How do we make something easier for them? Just
Yes,
something. Can we find a
anything.
couple things to reduce the burden? Yeah.
Exactly. Anything. Yes.
Yeah.
And the music helps the teachers as well, because again, they're learning something new and they're starting to see that their students are actually excited about something. I mean, how fun is that?
And honestly, that's not just an assumption. We actually, Drexel University did a study
Uh-huh.
and determined through work with 293 teachers that teachers who use TeachRock are actually happier and in many cases more likely to stay in the classroom.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
because of
I,
what you just said.
yeah.
They are like, oh, this is fun. I'm using music. Music is fun. Kids
Yeah.
are happier.
Yeah,
It's a kind of a circle, right? Once
absolutely.
the kids are happier, they cause less problems. The teacher's
Yeah.
happier. It's just it just kind of keeps on feeding back on itself.
And that's
Yeah.
why they went into teaching in the first place, because it's a calling and they actually are going to get to teach instead of be a social worker or a parent or we could go on and on with that. You could
Yes.
take us on that. We don't need to know all those things. All right. So the fourth question. So we're going through an enormous amount of transition and change globally. So how do you lead through transition and change? Because my guess is, Bill, with everything that you do and all the different schools from, young age all the way up to high school in the different environments, every day must be transition and change for you. So how do you lead through that? You've got 10 people who work in the organization. How do you keep
Yeah.
them going?
Well, so I kept thinking when I was looking at this one of driving a car in a
Uh-huh.
snowstorm.
Oh,
So
okay.
to people here that have not that live down south and have never done it, if you've ever been on the highway when it's really snowing, it kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon hitting warp speed. You've just kind of got white streaks coming at you,
Uh-huh.
and you can't see very far ahead. You can't see on either side, and you don't want to look back because you got to just keep going straight.
Uh-huh.
And I can think of a few times driving in snowstorms where I was like, man, I just really want to stop, but you can't stop,
You-
right? And
No,
if you
oh,
stop, nobody can see you.
no,
So
no.
you just have to power forward, right? And so there's a certain element of that kind of moments. There's been really two moments in my time as a leader, 2020 during COVID, and then last year during the new administration that really attacked education and federal funding, where it really felt kind of like white knuckle hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
The thing that helped is consistency
Mm,
and kind of realizing that a lot of change is not as much change as it seems like. That what we do in particular in education actually doesn't change that much, you know? So, for instance, there was the No Child Left Behind Act, and then it got ditched in favor of that was a federal education project. And then it went back to kind of a states' rights thing. And most states made a big deal about we're not doing that anymore. We're gonna do something different. Most pretty much ripped the cover page off of No Child Left Behind and put their own state seal on the cover and said, new standards here. These are our state standards. So once you start looking, it's like, oh, it's not that much. And I think that that's an important thing. That's a happy version. I think there's been tough moments. Some of my tougher moments have been when we were a little bigger at one point last year, when when the new administration took over, they just wiped out a ton of major federal organizations that were our dream
mm,
support, you
yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
NEA, more than that. Yeah. And so what happened was not necessarily that we immediately lost funding as our strategic plan was rendered cute. So, and so we had to really rethink things quickly.
Yeah.
And so we did have to let a couple of people go, which was painful, especially when, come back to my
Yeah.
analogy of us as a band. We're a small group of people. We know each other really well.
Yeah.
One thing we decided to do, a small group of us, as we talked it through, was to live with the absence of what those people had been doing for about 6 months and really try to feel it to see what is it that we really need to do to rebuild right now. So instead
Mm,
of kind of immediately making a lot of decisions, we knew we had to cut back, and so we reduced our budget to be a little safer. And then we said, let's take a deep breath, slow down for a second. Everything is moving very quickly right now. It's scary out there. People are making fast decisions, but we can just kind of ride this out for a minute and think it through. So for us, that was actually mostly in kind of marketing and communications. And we took this time and then we started just talking to anyone. I think my
yeah.
colleague and I did probably 25 meetings, Zooms with people in
Yeah.
um, different sectors that kind of all cross over with communications marketing and digital marketing and so on and so forth. And we ultimately ended up with two really tiny firms that came on as contractors, but who have become, I mean, they're intrinsic to what we do. And we took that time, we came back, we pulled them in, and then we just started a new project. We realized that we had reached 1 million students. And so
Wow.
we redirected around this is a really big deal. And so
Yeah.
if you follow us, you would have seen last fall, our founder was on the Kelly Clarkson show. He was on
Yes.
national ABC News. He was on all
Yes.
the local networks, and
Yes, he
it
was.
was all about having reached 1 million students. So when I think about 2025, you know, uh, April 2025 was a sad, unhappy month.
Mm.
But by November 2025, it couldn't have been more changed. And a lot of it had to do with admitting that we had to have a rough moment and
Yes.
letting the rough moment be rough for a little while until we
Yeah.
could have the clarity to, drive the van out of the snowstorm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And if you ignore the hard parts, they're going to come up in some other way. And we
correct.
can't pretend that they're not there. So you can't pick up the rug, throw them under, jump on the rug and go, "Okay, that's done. Let's move on." And I always say you have to feel it to heal it. And if you don't feel the pain of having to let people go, what does their roles and responsibilities mean for the organization? How are we going to take that and move it forward? Then what you're doing is a disservice, because we go back to what you said earlier about this curiosity. You have to listen what's happening, and then you have to make decisions based on what's happening at this point in time. So the flexibility, the adaptability, that's what transition is really all about. And we can't pretend it won't happen again, Bill, because it will. And we know
Mhm.
it's going to happen again. Yes. Maybe not that dramatic, we hope, and we never know.
Yeah, we never know. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, no chainsaws involved next time. But
Yeah, we can only hope. Yes. All righty. So we know the best leaders are always curious, and obviously that's a big one for you. And they're learning, and they've always got to see what's next. And so how do you continue to grow? I mean, the good news is you're out, as we said, it's connection, it's being with the teachers who are doing it, with the students who want to learn. That must be an enormous amount of growth for you. Do you do anything else?
sure. I mean, of course, I read podcasts,
Yeah.
all the all the things that
Yeah.
we can consume pretty easily these days. I'm involved in. One thing that came to my mind here is this amazing networking group I'm in,
Mhm.
and it's called Wall Street Dead Ahead Networking Group,
Oh.
and it's a professional networking group that's headquartered in New York City, but is very much national. And it's lawyers, doctors, people in insurance, real estate, food service, finance, a few nonprofits. The one connecting thing is you like the Grateful Dead, and it's Deb Solomon, the woman that started it and runs it, is incredibly effective as a leader. You do these, she calls them buses, get on the bus, Zooms. They usually have 15 to 20 people. Every other Wednesday, she runs 6 of them. And you have 3 minutes to kind of say who you are, what you do, what you can offer, what you need. And then there's 3 in-person events every year with a band. I usually play at them, and
Nice.
they're at an office building across from Radio City Music Hall. But we just had to throw this huge live music party in there. But
How
what's beautiful about it is that music piece, you kind of skip the line of getting to know people. Like everyone
yeah,
there kind of has a dead story, or like they all, whether it's all about the dead for them, they love music. That's why they're
yeah,
there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I kind of always joke, you never know who has tie dye under their top button, if they, or the governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont, if you look closely, he wears a Dancing Bears belt on his suit all the time. It's a little tell. But what I love about that group is I do lots of short get to know you calls with people in different
Yeah,
industries. And I just learn about other people and
yeah,
that have, you know, why do I need to talk to somebody who's in real estate or who's in insurance when my job is education nonprofit? But inevitably I learn something. And
Yeah.
not only do I learn something, like a few months later, I have some problem and I'm like, wait, I know who can help with that problem,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and so much. In fact, one of the two contractors that I just mentioned came from meeting somebody in that group, was a
Wow.
friend of someone in that group.
Yeah, yeah,
But so it creates it's this incredible resource of people who just literally get off on helping each other out.
yeah.
It's a little culty. I say it's my favorite cult I've ever been in, because we do really love, like, it's a real serotonin boost to know that
Yeah,
somebody posted in the LinkedIn group that they are like, I'm trying to figure out whatever, and then you're like, oh, I know the person you need to talk to. And but
yeah,
so it's such a beautiful experience because it also is human connection, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of
yeah,
putting all those things together. It's professional, it's human.
yeah,
You meet at a place of joy, which is music, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that sounds fascinating. And there's so many networking groups and I've joined many of them and some of them work and some of them don't, but when there's that connection and it doesn't matter what you do for a living, but there's that connection, then yeah, you gotta love that. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like TeachRock's theory, but for professional networking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, that's great. All righty. So, the sixth question is really it's about joy, and we've talked a lot about joy and how you bring joy, for yourself and to the world. But one of Teach Rock's goals is obviously to create joy. So teachers they want to teach, and students want to learn. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? So, if we think about what brings you joy, well, you just gave us one networking event. What else
yeah,
brings joy as you think about, because when I think about leadership, it's not just about leading, it's about you have to be a full person, you have to bring your whole person to work, if you will. So
mhm.
how do you fill up? I mean, you're a musician, you play, watch music, you're out and about talking to teachers and students, so is there anything else?
Yeah. I mean, no, it's all music. I mean, and that does come back to that. I mean, I do have to say, for me, the day job part of it is a lot of administrative side
Yeah,
of bringing that to life.
yeah.
So going back to the well of the music itself is such a recharge, and I come back to Bob Marley, Trenchtown Rock, all the time. He says one good thing about the music: when it hits, you feel no pain. And
Oh,
I learned that song first when I was in high school, and
uh-huh,
just thought, yeah, you feel the bass in your chest and it doesn't hurt, right? But
uh-huh, uh-huh.
it gets more and more dimensions as I get older.
Yes.
And I don't know. I always like to, one of the things when I'm speaking publicly, I ask people to imagine themselves, uh, busy day of work. Maybe it's hot outside. Now it's Thursday. You're going to a concert tonight and you're excited about the concert. Work went a little late, so you hit traffic. Now there's a traffic jam pulling into the big parking lot. You had to park further away than you wanted to. Now you got to walk over to the concert. You're walking over, it's crowded, it's hot, big line to get through security, right? You're standing in the security line. Maybe you're even feeling kind of annoyed about the people around you. Finally get in there. Now think about like 30 minutes after the house lights go down, the
Oh,
music starts, the big
yeah,
lights go up, right?
yeah.
Do you have any of those feelings anymore?
Oh,
How do
gonzo.
you how do you feel about the people around you,
Who
right?
cares?
Yeah, who cares? Or even more, you might look at them and
Yeah.
be like, God, I love this person.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how
yeah.
could I have been so, like, I have this all the time. Like, how could I have been so grumpy about this,
Absolutely.
you know? And
Yes.
so when the music hits, you feel no pain, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
all of a sudden you feel a little better, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's a deep, beautiful thing. That is at the core of what we do with Teach Rock, is how do we bring that in? Because when the music hits in education, the kid doesn't have to feel pain about learning
Yeah.
about something, right? Like
Yeah.
do you want to learn? Do you want to learn about the changing economic status of people in the industrialized North after World War II? Or do you want to learn about Muddy Waters and his journey from Mississippi to Chicago, which
Yeah.
is the same thing, you
I'm
know?
going with Muddy Waters every
So,
time.
yeah. And, playing music, I still play, I still play anywhere between 2 and 6 to 8 shows a month.
Yeah.
And, I did my 10,000 hours of practice. I was all in for a long time. And I did have a teacher who had said something great to me at one point. You do all that practice so you can get on stage and not use any of it. And again, I
Mm,
didn't get the quote at the time, but
mm-hmm.
now I do see it as a really beautiful
Yes.
statement about, like, you get all your techniques together and then you have to be in the moment, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being in the moment is the best. And so,
Yeah.
there's been times when I've had a fever and I have to play a show and I feel fine while I'm playing it for the next hour and then I'm sick
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But certainly I can let go of whatever's occupying my mind in terms
Yeah.
of work and different things, and often come out with like a little bit more of clarity about it too, because I
Yeah.
stopped just like
Yeah.
cycling it over
Cycling.
and over for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I understand the whole music thing. And I'm in the city. And so I go see music a lot. And there are times you get on the subway and you're like, oh my, please get out of my way. And then the line is longer than it's supposed to, or it's cold and and then as soon as you're exactly right, as soon as the music starts, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in the right place. Thank you, world, for putting me in the right place. Yes,
Where do
absolutely.
you like to go? What have you seen anything good lately?
Oh, yeah, I've the bitter end has been amazing.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love the bitter
City.
end.
I love the bitter end. City Winery is where I've met a bunch of the spring nuts, which I just saw them at the same shows over and over and over again. And finally, one evening, I said, "Okay, who are you? What is your name? I see you all the time." And that is how I got to be friends with them. And now
Yeah.
there's a whole music crew, and we go see things all over. And
Yeah.
the joy is unbelievable. So I'm with
Yeah.
you on that. I am with you on that.
It's
Absolutely.
great.
So, okay, that brings us to the final question
Mhm.
in the talk seven. Although you've already given me quite a few quotes, so
Yeah.
so do you have a favorite one? You've already
I
given
finally have
three of
something
them.
that isn't about music.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah.
wait, I have to shut this down immediately.
And my quote is poor monkey. It's, you're like, why? But so it actually comes from a Buddhist story. It's called the Jataka tale. It's
Okay.
a Buddhist teaching story, and it's called The Magic of Patience. And it's about a buffalo who is tormented daily by a mischievous monkey that just
Oh.
jumps on his back when he's sleeping and pulls his ears, covers his eyes when he's trying to walk, and, like, splashes water in his face when he's trying to drink, and just harasses the buffalo all the time. So a spirit comes to the forest, comes to the buffalo, and is kind of angry at him and says, Why do you put up with this crap? Like, you could stomp the monkey. This is like, why? And the buffalo says very slowly, oh, forest sprite, anger doesn't lead to happiness. And then he says, patience is my magic. And it says,
Wow.
ultimately, and I pulled the quote here, poor monkey, he must be so lonely. Nobody wants to be near him. He uses his faults, not his virtues, turning all his cleverness and energy into heavy, dumb jokes. I feel sorry for him. Poor monkey. And, in the story, the monkey overhears it and kind of has a moment and realizes and then apologizes, and everyone moves on.
Yes.
But, you know, in the world,
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace, we're going to have to
Yes.
deal with some people who are just can't find a way to kindness, or can't find a way to leaving you alone and really make you nuts. And I
Yeah.
just, I actually send the book to friends sometimes when
Oh.
I know they have it. I bought 10 copies of it at one point. And I just remind myself, poor monkey. I think the
Yeah.
Seinfeld version is Serenity Now. I
Uh-huh.
try not to yell, poor monkey, but
Well, some people be like, excuse me.
yes, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to,
Yeah,
you have to be
exactly.
careful with it. It's more of an internal process. Nobody wants to be the poor monkey, but it's a super effective way to help
Um,
yourself deal with situations that might make you angry, or kind of,
yeah,
get overwhelmed or
yeah,
respond in a way you don't want to respond.
yeah. And Bill, I really think oftentimes when I do get cranky and I just want to be like, are you kidding me? I really try and think, now I'll use the word poor monkey. I try and think like, where did they come from? Like what happened to them today? I don't know their backstory. And there's days I'm very, very good at that. And there are days I'm not so good at that. So
Hmm.
if you can have compassion again, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, and sometimes I'm great at it, and sometimes I'm really not so great at it. Yes.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm always great at it, but
Yeah.
you have your moments, and then you say, "Gosh, I
Exactly.
wish I had embraced the poor monkey strategy there. It would have probably gone better than when I
Yeah.
didn't." And
Exactly.
then, if you're
Exactly.
gonna take the same approach, though, you just have to label that in yourself and then let it
Yes.
go and keep moving.
Exactly. In the snowstorm, driving, keep going forward.
Keep going forward. Yeah.
Exactly. Great. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for walking us through the Talk 7. I mean, a great conversation. And I love just being able to talk about all of this and just let it go wherever it goes. And well, my goodness, I've learned so much, even the quotes alone. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your leadership insights and for spending some time thinking about who you are as a leader. I love that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It was fun to sit with the questions and think about them because for the most part, although these things are inside, you don't necessarily
Yes,
take that moment to pause
I
and
know.
label and identify. I think that's a really helpful thing.
Yeah, I know. Good. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. And to all of our listeners, thank you. Thank you for listening. And I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to Bill Carbone, the Executive Director of TeachRock. And I hope everybody's going to go to teachrock.org and check them out.
Mhm.
One leader, 7 questions, a lot to think about. And if this conversation made you pause, if it made you think or it made you smile, hit subscribe and share it with someone who leads. When you're ready to invest in your leadership, you'll find Keep It Real Leadership at the peoplethink.biz website. So till the next episode of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, have a good one. And don't forget to keep it real and lead with impact. Editing by Mary Lee Williams. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye now.